Our protagonist, Yoshida, a 30-year-old salaryman, is at a restaurant with Airi Gato. She expresses her gratitude for the evening and says that the food was delicious. Yoshida invites her back to his house. However, Airi reveals that she's already in a relationship, putting an end to Yoshida's hope to see her in his bedroom. I guess you're out of luck there, guy. Later, Yoshida cries out his frustration to his close friend Hashimoto, mad at Airi that she has another man and didn't even tell him. He orders beer. After the beer, Hashimoto leaves home to his wife, and the drunk Yoshida, irritated, walks home. Along the way, he notices a young schoolgirl sitting beneath a lamppost. Approaching her, Yoshida inquires about her situation and suggests she should head home. The girl explains that the trains have stopped running for the night. A brief debate takes place about where she should stay, and she asks if she can spend the night at Yoshida's place. Confused, Yoshida suggests alternatives like the train station or an internet cafe, but the girl admits she has no money. As a compromise, she offers to sleep with him in exchange for a place to stay. Shocked, Yoshida refuses her trade and tells her that an adult like him shall not take advantage of a teenager. She tells Yoshida that she can stay for free. At Yoshida's apartment, the girl comments on the mess, which Yoshida dismisses as typical for a one-bedroom place. She insists she has seen cleaner ones, puzzling Yoshida. He reassures himself that she's not his problem and plans to send her away the next day anyway. As Yoshida lays in bed, the girl attempts to seduce him as a payment for staying, but he firmly rejects her. When she asks what he wants, Yoshida murmurs that he desires miso soup made by a woman. The next morning, Yoshida wakes up to smell delicious food in his apartment and is surprised to find a young girl in his house. The girl, who introduces herself as Sayu Ogiwara, explains that he let her stay the night before. She playfully makes him anxious by implying he might have taken advantage of her, but assures him he didn't. Sayu reveals she made the miso soup Yoshida had wished for, which he finds delicious. Yoshida, tired of being called old man, asks Sayu to leave, but she reminds him of his promise from the previous night. Sayu mentions overhearing while he was sleeping that he was rejected by Airi. Yoshida is surprised, and Sayu asks him if he's down emotionally and she can help him feel better. She shows him her fresh melons, but he tells her that he's not that desperate to take advantage of a tiny teenage girl. Sayu confesses maybe she doesn't know that many things, but she doesn't think her melons are tiny and little, and he admits they are pretty big for a teen, but she's no match for Airi. Sayu reveals that those there are size F, and Yoshida thinks that Airi's are a solid H, and he wishes he could have stuck between them for a little. But Sayu tells him a solid F cup is way better than an H that he can't touch. He calls her weirdo for insisting to pay him back with her body. Sayu calls him back a weirdo for not taking advantage. Yoshida finds out that she left her home 6 months ago and she doesn't want to return back because her partners don't want her back. Concerned, he decides to let her stay temporarily, but she has to find a job and stop trying to seduce him. He tasks her with cleaning the apartment to make it more livable for the both of them. That evening, as Yoshida walks home, he remembers Hashimoto's advice to send Sayu back to her parents before things get complicated. While he agrees, Yoshida also considers Sayu's perspective. Upon returning home, Yoshida is greeted by Sayu calling him daddy, which he likes to hear but pretends that it irritates him. Although she has prepared miso soup again, Yoshida has brought home bentos. Opening his closet, he notices that Sayu has ironed all his clothes, impressed by her housewife skills. After they finish eating, Yoshida asks about the ashtray, and Sayu reveals she cleaned it with the dishes. Yoshida takes the ashtray outside to smoke despite Sayu's indifference. She confesses that all men she stayed with smoked around her, which agitates Yoshida. He insists that Sayu should have standards for herself. The next morning, Yoshida's alarm wakes them both. Seeing her wearing the same clothes since he met her, he decides to take Sayu shopping for new clothes and a mattress so she won't sleep on the floor. Sayu is hesitant, worried about repaying him, but Yoshida assures her it's a thank you for her hard work. Back home, Sayu enjoys her new improvised bed and invites Yoshida to check it out tonight, but assures him she's just joking. Sayu laughs, and Yoshida comments that she looks cuter when she laughs, making her blush. At lunch the next day, Hashimoto notes the changes in Yoshida, attributing them to the runaway girl he took in. That night, Yoshida reflects on why Sayu ran away. The following morning, Sayu prepares a lavish breakfast and asks why Yoshida rarely shaves and suggests that he do it often. He decides to shave his face every day. At work, Yoshida reprimands his subordinate Yuzuha for her buggy code. urging her to fix it before the deadline. Yuzuha worries about Yoshida's job, but he assures her he won't be fired, just reassigned. She promises to fix the issue immediately. Later that night, Yuzuha finishes the coding and Yoshida brings food. They chat, and Yuzuha blames him for not bringing some beer, too. She also mentions rumors about Yoshida having a girlfriend. Yoshida confesses his rejection by Airi, and Yuzuha, relieved, offers to take him out for beer sometime. Back home, Sayu playfully sulks under the blankets, pretending to be upset that Yoshida is late. She pretends she made dinner for him, and Yoshida apologizes. Sayu admits it was a joke and hopes he enjoys the meal in the next morning. She serves him beer and tofu.
Nice.
That's every man's dream. You gotta have a partner like that. During lunch, Yoshida and Hashimoto visit a phone store. Hashimoto suggests buying Sayu a phone, but Yoshida knows she'll refuse. Hashimoto teases Yoshida about his feelings for Sayu and advises him to consider the future. Yoshida insists he prefers older women with big melons, but Hashimoto laughs, suggesting he might fall for Sayu. Back at work, Yoshida is approached by Airi, asking to talk after work, and he agrees. Hashimoto hints that rejection can lead to unexpected developments. That night, Airi and Yoshida enjoy their Korean barbecue and the beer. Airi recognizes that she feels at ease when she's with him out eating. Our boy enjoys the view of her H-sized melons, and she asks him if she's nervous around her. He says yes, and she asks why that is. He explains she rejected him and then asked him out. She laughs and proposes a Q&A session, and he can ask any question that he would like. She asks him if he has a girlfriend. Yoshida denies it. Airi tells him he's a liar because his look went from acceptable to immaculate overnight, which never happened in 5 years. She mentions his closeness with Yuzuha, but Yoshida denies any romantic involvement there. He confesses that he's been in love with someone for the past 5 years, and that person is Airi. For him, she's a special girl, leaving the other women in the dust. She's surprised. Airi admits she was worried about him being with a younger girl and so quick after she rejected him, but Yoshida reassures her there's nothing between him and Yuzuha. Airi tells him that the answer to the question of him having a girlfriend was really vital for her, which surprises him. Airi asks Yoshida for his final question, and he asks her what cup size are those. She whispers to him that they are a firm size I. Back home, Sayu playfully scolds Yoshida for being late. He admits he had dinner with Airi and had a good time. Sayu hugs him to cheer him up and then sends him to take a bath. Afterwards, she serves him miso soup, and Yoshida gives her a new white cell phone with a matching case. They exchange numbers, and Yoshida dismisses Hashimoto's notion that he might fall for Sayu. The next morning, Yoshida prepares for work while Sayu promises to make cabbage miso soup. He playfully comments on her messy hair, embarrassing her. Sayu does her chores and thinks how much time she'll be able to call that place home, and when Yoshida will kick her out like the others did. Later, Yuzuha finishes her tasks and talks Yoshida into watching a movie. After the movie, Yoshida and Yuzuha discuss fated encounters. Sayu searches for Yoshida outside the house. Yuzuha confesses she had a fated encounter and embraces Yoshida. Sayu witnesses this and runs off when she sees it. Yoshida gently pushes Yuzuha away, and she asks what if her fated encounter is with him, and it's written in the stars for them to be together. He tells her to stop being dumb and just go home. Walking home, Yoshida passes the lamppost where he first met Sayu and contemplates his own fate. Finding the apartment empty, he panics and searches for Sayu. Meanwhile, Sayu sits in the park, emotional and jealous. Yuzuha starts a conversation with her, and Sayu tells her that she doesn't believe in an unconditional kindness. Everybody's looking for something. Yuzuha assures her that such people do exist. There are not that many, but they exist. Sayu guesses she's talking about Yoshida. Yuzuha shares her own runaway past, and they bond over their experiences. Yuzuha advises Sayu to be open with Yoshida. Yoshida finds them, and Yuzuha leaves, demanding an explanation later. At home, Sayu confronts Yoshida. She's undressed and tries to seduce him. Yoshida admits he's attracted to her, but refuses her advances, explaining he doesn't want to sleep with someone he's not in love with. Sayu confesses her fears of being a burden and her past experiences. Yoshida embraces her, complimenting her, and offers her to stay until she's ready to go home. Sayu accepts, her eyes full of tears of joy and happiness. Yoshida feels they truly start living together from that moment. The next day, Sayu asks Yoshida for permission to get a job. He casually agrees, surprising Sayu with his quick acceptance. When Yoshida asks if she has a place in mind, Sayu mentions the convenience store nearby. Yoshida is happy about her decision, hoping she'll make friends with people of her own age. On Sayu's first day at Comfort, her senior Asami Yuki shows her the duties and insists Sayu call her by her first name. As they prepare to leave, Asami asks where Sayu lives and is intrigued to find they live close by. Asami asks to visit Sayu's place, but Sayu refuses, hinting at her living situation. Asami decides to visit anyway, curious about Sayu's brother, quote-unquote. Sayu texts Yoshida about Asami's impending visit. He's okay for her to visit them. That night, Yoshida returns home to find Asami waiting. She rates him as a hot, older dude and introduces herself. Yoshida fabricates a story about him and Sayu being childhood friends with a 9-year age gap. Sayu, washing dishes, chimes in to clarify details. Yoshida almost slips up, but Sayu announces dinner is ready. Asami compliments the meal and notes how lucky Yoshida is. After dinner, Asami comments on the small apartment, and Yoshida jokes it will be bigger once she leaves. Asami playfully calls him her soulmate, upsetting Yoshida but making Sayu laugh. Asami asks Yoshida to walk her home, and he agrees. Sayu tries to join, but Asami insists she stay. On their walk, Asami points out the obvious lie about Yoshida and Sayu's relationship. Yoshida admits the truth, but insists he's like a big brother to Sayu. Asami, relieved, calls him a good guy and walks home alone. Before parting, they chat more, and Yoshida asks Asami to be Sayu's friend. Asami advises Yoshida to be careful of Sayu's different smiles. They part ways, leaving Yoshida perplexed. The next night, Yoshida finishes work and is about to text Sayu when Airi approaches him. She invites him to the same restaurant as before and questions his relationship with Yuzuha and his reason for declining a business trip. Yoshida asks why Airi cares about his personal life and refuses to answer until she does. Airi admits she has feelings for him. Airi confesses she lied about being in a relationship for over 5 years. She explains her intuition told her to wait, but Yoshida thinks she's bluffing. Airi denies this and asks what it would take to prove it and earn his trust. Yoshida suggests they sleep together, leaving Airi speechless. He admits he's just bluffing, but Airi confesses she's a virgin. Yoshida apologizes and asks Airi not to lie to him. Airi admits she has feelings for him, but understands Yoshida's perspective and is okay if he wants to go to his place to try it out. He's shocked and doesn't know what to say. He explains to her that he does like her, and all this other stuff shouldn't be done just like that, and he wants her to ask him for a date. As she rejected him the first time, she promises to ask him out one day on a date when the time is right. Sayu eats dinner alone and feels lonely, triggering an anxiety attack. She rushes to the restroom to vomit. Yoshida texts Sayu that he's coming home with Airi, causing Sayu to misinterpret it as being kicked out. He reassures her that Airi just wants to meet her, leaving Sayu perplexed. Upon arriving, Airi introduces herself to a surprised Sayu and offers her snacks she brought, as Yoshida reveals the truth about his relationship with Sayu to Airi. Relieved, Airi is confused by Sayu's comment on how surprising it is. The room falls into an awkward silence. Yoshida excuses himself to the bathroom, and Airi suggests she talks to Sayu alone. Sayu, appearing crestfallen, takes a deep breath and faces Airi, who sits smiling at the table. Sayu asks Yoshida to head to the store to buy ingredients she needs for cooking. Airi asks Sayu about her past and pointedly inquires how long she plans to stay with Yoshida. Meanwhile, Yoshida bumps into Yuzuha in the street. She had taken a detour from the train station and asks why he's out so late. Yoshida explains he's buying breakfast ingredients for Sayu. Learning Sayu is at his place, Yuzuha asks to join him. Back at the apartment, Sayu remains silent about Airi's question. Airi explains the uniqueness of teenage girls and advises Sayu to consider the high school option instead. Sayu confesses her past actions and acknowledges she can't stay forever. She resolves to confront her past for both their sakes. Airi embraces Sayu, praising her for her courage. Yuzuha asks to stay the night at Yoshida's place, but he refuses, leading to a minor argument. Yuzuha reveals she deduced Airi's presence by following Yoshida. Back at the apartment, Sayu asks Airi if she loves Yoshida. Airi confirms, revealing she's loved him since he joined the company. Sayu is happy, hoping Yoshida gets the woman he wants. Outside the store, Yuzuha confesses she thought Yoshida was spending the night with Airi. Yoshida denies it but claims he still loves Airi. Yuzuha argues his situation is illogical, with the woman he loves at his house with a teenage girl. Yoshida acknowledges the weirdness but insists he can't change it right now. Yuzuha asks about his priorities and warns that dating Airi would mean hiding Sayu. Yoshida argues that would mean kicking Sayu out. Yuzuha loses her cool briefly, questioning if Yoshida's love for Airi is genuine. She calls him too nice and warns he'll never get what he wants if he's too nice. Apologizing, Yuzuha leaves. Returning home, Yoshida finds Airi happily applying makeup to Sayu. He gives a compliment and Airi and Sayu playfully criticize him. Later, Airi warns Yoshida not to take advantage of Sayu and expresses confidence in his ability to handle her emotional outbursts. Sayu enters the break room at Comfort and notices the name Kyoya Yaguchi on the work schedule. Kyoya walks in and they instantly recognize each other. Kyoya is happily surprised, but Sayu denies ever meeting him. Kyoya insists he remembers spending the night with her, leaving Sayu shocked. As Kyoya presses, Sayu denies being the person he knows. Asami enters, senses the tension, and kicks Kyoya out. She consoles Sayu, who is visibly shaken. After work, Sayu walks home hoping to avoid Kyoya, but he confronts her. He asks about her well-being and insists on visiting her house, claiming he just wants to talk. Sayu refuses, citing she needs permission for visitors. Kyoya blackmails her, threatening to reveal their past to Asami. Cornered, Sayu agrees, planning to have him leave before Yoshida returns. She texts Yoshida about the situation. At Yoshida's apartment, Kyoya comments on its cleanliness. Sayu reveals she maintains it. Their conversation turns sour when Kyoya asks about their past interactions. Sayu admits they haven't been intimate since she moved in. Kyoya tries to force himself on her, but Sayu smacks him. Yoshida bursts in, questioning Sayu about Kyoya, and kicks him out. Yoshida interrogates Kyoya, who reveals Sayu stayed with him months ago and warns Yoshida about the responsibilities of caring for her. Yoshida reflects on his morals and resolves to teach Sayu right from wrong. He makes Kyoya promise to stay away from Sayu. Yoshida and Sayu have a heart-to-heart moment. Sayu asks why Yoshida helps her, and he expresses his desire for her to live a normal teenage life. Sayu tearfully thanks him. The next day, Asami notices Sayu's distress at work and asks about Kyoya. Sayu is evasive, so Asami confronts Kyoya in the break room. Kyoya admits he propositioned Sayu, and Asami smacks him, demanding an apology. Alone with Sayu, Kyoya gives a half-hearted apology and promises not to reveal their past. Sayu laughs, warning she'll retaliate if he tries anything again. Kyoya finds her response amusing and notes that Yoshida treats her differently. After work, Sayu stays with Asami as Yoshida is working late. They visit Asami's grandparents' house, impressing Sayu with its size. Asami reveals her father is a politician and her mother a lawyer. They walk to a stargazing spot where Sayu shares her backstory. Asami confides her dream of becoming an author, despite her parents' plan. She recalls a heart-to-heart with her father at that very spot. Asami consoles Sayu, encouraging her to think about her future. At Comfort Market, Sayu and Asami discuss Yoshida's stance on Asami's frequent visits. Asami playfully retorts that it's summer break and she and Sayu are soulmates. As Asami begins to stock shelves, a black car pulls up and the driver briefly looks inside before driving away. Asami mentions the car's regular appearances, leaving Sayu notably concerned. Meanwhile, at the IT company, Yoshida receives a text from Sayu, which Yuzuha envies. Airi approaches Yoshida about some documents, and Yuzuha watches that enviously too. Later, Yuzuha confronts Airi, asking about her thoughts on Yoshida and his girlfriend. Airi shares her opinions and acknowledges Sayu. Yuzuha asks if Airi would be upset if Yoshida chose Sayu, to which Airi responds no, explaining her reasoning. Yuzuha argues that Airi is scared, but Airi advises waiting for Yoshida's decision. Yuzuha bluntly asks if Airi loves Yoshida, and Airi confesses she does, but believes her actions wouldn't matter. Late that afternoon, Yuzuha invites Yoshida to a movie, but he declines, citing Sayu's special dinner. Yuzuha insists on exchanging contact information, and they do. They have an argument over him being too nice, and he asks her what's her problem, and she confesses that she loves him just a little bit. That's why she's concerned over his well-being. Yuzuha immediately texts Yoshida, asking him out, and he agrees. Amused, Yuzuha notices his childishness, but admits she likes it. The next day, Sayu does her chores, and Yoshida offers to help. Sayu insists the chores are her job and playfully pushes him onto the bed, ending up on top of him. They both feel awkward, and he asks her to take off him the towel she was cleaning with. At Comfort Market, Sayu works with Kyoya when the stalker car appears again. Seeing Sayu's distress, Kyoya has her retreat to the back room. The car's passenger, Kazuto Ogewara, CEO of Ogewara Foods, enters and hands Kyoya his business card. He asks about Sayu and the manager, but Kyoya brushes him off. Sayu explains her relationship with Kazuto to Asami and that he's her brother, and is probably looking for her to take her home. Kyoya informs them that the coast is clear, but warns that Sayu might not keep Kazuto at bay for long. Sayu realizes this, but believes now is not the time to deal with it. While out shopping, she bumps into Yuzuha. They have a conversation, then panic strikes when Sayu spots her brother and his chauffeur, leading her to hide behind Yuzuha. Learning of Sayu's situation, Yuzuha takes her to a karaoke bar for drinks. Sayu struggles with what to text Yoshida, so Yuzaha takes the initiative, inviting Yoshida to join them later. At the IT company, Yoshida finishes his work and receives a puzzling text from Sayu about having a good time, quote-unquote. Meanwhile, Sayu and Yuzaha wrap up their karaoke session and dive into a heart-to-heart about Sayu's pursuers. Yuzaha inquires if Sayu is running from a crime, which she denies. Yuzaha presses Sayu about her feelings for Yoshida and the potential consequences if her pursuers catch her. Sayu remains silent, prompting Yuzaha to advise her to consider her next steps seriously. Yoshida arrives, taking Sayu home and invites Yuzaha, who declines. After Yoshida leaves, Yuzaha breaks down, lamenting Yoshida's feelings for Sayu and the unrequited love she feels for him. Walking home, Sayu asks Yoshida if there's anything he wants to do. Spotting a poster for the summer festival, they decide to attend. The next night at the festival, Sayu notices Yoshida's hesitation to look at her in her yukata. She insists he acknowledge her. He tells her that she's pretty, but she mumbles that if she's prettier than Airi. He asks what she's saying. She tells him nothing, some nonsense. They propose to each other to make new memories. Yoshida buys Sayu cotton candy, and as they enjoy it, a young boy bumps into her. Yoshida catches Sayu, and they hold hands to avoid getting lost. Watching the fireworks and enjoying them, Yoshida reflects on his life with and without Sayu. Panic sets in when he thinks Sayu has disappeared, but she returns from throwing away trash. He confesses to her that he got scared for real, thinking she disappeared. She's glad to hear that. They continue watching the fireworks, holding hands. Sayu confesses that Yoshida is the only man she's given her real name to. After a heart-to-heart moment, they return home together. The next day, Sayu's older brother, Issa, appears at Yoshida's apartment, determined to take Sayu home. Issa Ogiwara, Sayu's older brother, stands at Yoshida's apartment door, demanding that Sayu return home. Sayu refuses, insisting she's not ready. Issa argues that adults might take advantage of her, but Sayu defends Yoshida's character. In the living room, Issa questions if anything inappropriate has occurred between Sayu and Yoshida, which they both deny. Relieved, Issa reveals their mother's worry, but Sayu is skeptical. Issa explains that Sayu's teacher has been looking for her, and their mother has been fending her off, claiming Sayu is locked in her room. Sayu asks if their mother is trying to prove the teacher wrong, but Issa doesn't respond. Yoshida suggests giving Sayu 3 to 4 days to decide whether to return home, and Issa agrees, requesting a moment alone with Sayu. Yoshida consents, and Sayu agrees to talk with her brother. Issa leaves the apartment and waits inside his car. Inside, Yoshida and Sayu discuss the encounter. As Sayu gets dressed, she admits feeling anxious but relaxed with Yoshida. She heads to Issa's car, and Yoshida decides to shave. Issa expresses relief that Sayu found a decent person to stay with and reveals their mother's daily calls, concerned for Sayu. He suggests that Sayu return home temporarily, offering his support. Sayu confesses she left due to the pain, but realized that she was always alone until she met Yoshida. She resolves to think for herself and decide her own future. Issa understands, noticing Sayu's growth, and gives her a week to decide. Asami visits Yoshida's apartment, and they discuss Sayu's situation. Yoshida admits Issa gave Sayu's decision more respect than expected. Sayu shares her past, revealing her strained relationship with her mother and her lack of effort in high school. She was avoided at school until she met Yuko Masaka, who changed her perspective. In a flashback, Sayu and Yuko eat lunch on the rooftop, and Yuko asks why Sayu always looked so cool. Sayu considered Yuko an outcast like herself, but enjoyed her company. Bullies targeted Yuko to get to Sayu, who was seen as beautiful and cool. Yuko was bullied because of her association with Sayu. One day, Sayu finds Yuko on the rooftop guardrail, confessing her feelings before jumping. This event left Sayu emotionally devastated. News reporters gathered at the Ogiwara household, and Sayu's mother reprimanded her for the incident. Sayu apologized, but became angry with her mother when she accused her of killing Yuko. Feeling like a hindrance, Sayu left home with Issa's help, who gave her money and dropped her off at Asaikawa Station. The money soon ran out, and Sayu felt lonely and worthless. She cut ties with Issa and ended up staying with men in exchange for sexual favors until she met Yoshida. In the present, Sayu admits her past mistakes and the cycle she was stuck in. Asami and Yoshida discuss Sayu's revelation on the balcony. Yoshida believes Sayu should return home, but Asami asks what Yoshida truly wants for Sayu, leaving him in thought. That night, Yoshida finds Issa waiting outside his apartment. At a nearby park, Issa apologizes for his previous remarks. They discuss Yoshida's first encounter with Sayu and her family background. Issa reveals that Yoshida is the first parental figure Sayu has liked. He thanks Yoshida for caring for his sister and reminds him that their time together is limited. Back at the apartment, Yoshida informs Sayu about his talk with Issa. Sayu realizes she must return home and prepare herself. The next day at home, Sayu gives Yoshida a notebook filled with recipes, encouraging him to cook for himself. Yoshida appreciates the gesture. That evening, Sayu takes Yoshida to a hilltop spot where she once reflected with Asami. She thanks Yoshida for helping her realize her mistakes and expresses her concern to face her problems. Sayu hopes Yoshida will cheer her on when she leaves. He promises to do so. In the break room, Hashimoto, Yuzaha, and Yoshida discuss Sayu's impending departure. Hashimoto suggests Yoshida spend his remaining time with her, while Yuzaha proposes he follow her to Hokkaido. Yoshida finds the idea weird, but Yuzaha agrees that his recent actions have been unconventional. Yoshida worries about work, but Yuzaha and Hashimoto reassure him that everything will be just fine. That night, Sayu asks him if she can sleep in his bed. She notes it's their first time being so close and promises not to do anything inappropriate. She asks if Yoshida was her father, would she have led a normal, healthy life? Yoshida clarifies he's not her father, just someone who let her stay in his apartment. Sayu agrees, mentioning the kindness and warmth of his place. Yoshida reveals he will follow her to Hokkaido, astonishing Sayu. He assures her she won't be lonely and will meet her mom. Sayu hugs Yoshida, thanking him. In the parking lot outside Yoshida's apartment, Asami embraces Sayu tightly as Issa and Yoshida watch. Asami wishes Sayu good luck, and with a determined smile, Sayu says she's ready to go. On the flight to Hokkaido, Yoshida sits beside Sayu, who is wrapped in a blanket sleeping. Issa expresses surprise that Yoshida is joining them, to which Yoshida explains he wants to support Sayu and help her face her mother. Issa warns of the challenges ahead, but acknowledges Yoshida's presence will benefit Sayu's mental state. Sayu awakens and is surprised to find Yoshida by her side. He reassures her that he'll be with her until the end, and they chat about the rare excitement of the plane ride. Riding in the car and noticing Sayu's distant gaze, Yoshida suggests they spend some time together, which cheers her up. They visit a café, a new experience for Sayu. Sayu shares her past, mentioning her mother's strict rules and the happiness she feels finally enjoying a café with Yoshida. He asks if she's afraid to return home, and she admits she is, but feels stronger with Yoshida by her side. That evening, they arrive at Asaikawa Dairoku High School. Sayu, nervous but determined, leads Yoshida to the rooftop where she once spent time with Yuko. Overwhelmed by memories, Sayu breaks down, blaming herself for Yuko's death. Yoshida comforts her, insisting it wasn't her fault and urging her to forgive herself. Sayu has a tearful breakdown and Yoshida wipes her tears away, reassuring her that she needs to move forward. As they leave, Sayu stands before the school, ready to face her past. In the Ogiwara household, Sayu's mother slaps her in the face, berating her for the rumors her disappearance caused. Issa intervenes, introducing Yoshida as Sayu's caretaker, but their mother dismisses him and walks away. In the dining room, the family discusses Sayu's decision to run away. Her mother claims it caused more problems than her presence ever did. Sayu, frustrated, accuses her mother of not trying to understand her. The argument escalates, with Sayu's mother blaming her for running away to spite the family. Sayu denies this, revealing she left to escape her mother's blame for her friend's death. Yoshida begins to grasp why Sayu left home. The conversation turns to Yoshida, with Sayu's mother speaking disparagingly about him. Yoshida defends himself, acknowledging the risks he took caring for Sayu. Sayu speaks up, defending Yoshida and expressing gratitude for his emotional support. Her mother, enraged, claims she should never have given birth to Sayu. The room falls silent before Sayu bursts into tears. Yoshida, barely containing his anger, drinks his tea instead of lashing out. He reflects on his conflicting emotions and the responsibility of parenthood. He declares his intention to care for Sayu until she's an adult, but emphasizes that it's her mother's responsibility. Yoshida then bows in front of her mother and asks her to take care of her daughter until she's an adult, and Issa too bows and begs Sayu's mother to take care of her. Seeing that this is leading to a nervous breakdown for her, Issa asks them to go outside so he can handle his mother. Outside, Yoshida and Sayu cry together, acknowledging the harsh words spoken. Sayu finds solace in Yoshida's actions and tells him that when he bowed in front of her mom, she felt forgiven. They hold hands, reassuring each other that everything is going to be okay under the night sky. Issa joins them, explaining that Sayu can stay home until graduation if she promises she will cause no trouble. He credits Yoshida's influence on their mother's decision. Before leaving, Yoshida asks to speak with Sayu's mother again. He apologizes for his earlier outburst, and she asks if he ever did anything inappropriate with Sayu. He shows her that he only provided the food and the roof above her head. When asked about why he went to such lengths for Sayu, he simply says it's because he met her that day, and as one of his friends called it, it was a fated encounter. Sayu's mother agrees to talk things over with Sayu and asks Yoshida to return to Tokyo the next day. Exiting the dining room, Yoshida sees Sayu standing with Issa on the staircase. She walks in, determined to speak with her mother alone. Inside, Sayu apologizes for the trouble she caused and bows deeply, confessing her frustration and the impact of her actions. Her mother, unmoved, refuses to apologize. Sayu asks if she is truly her only parent, to which her mother emotionally confirms. She instructs Sayu to finish school, despite being held back a year, and then pursue her own path. After her mother leaves, Sayu thanks her and discusses her calm conversation with Yoshida, who praises her progress. Preparing for bed, Yoshida struggles to sleep. Sayu joins him, wanting to spend their last night together. They discuss her future without him, and Sayu tearfully asks to make love as a lasting memory. Yoshida refuses, stating their time together is enough to preserve their bond. Sayu embraces him, crying, and asks if he wants to touch her chest, but he declines. Later, Yoshida watches Sayu sleep, sitting in a chair beside the bed. At the airport, Issa hands Yoshida an envelope of money for his fare, but Yoshida refuses, suggesting Issa use it for Sayu's clothes. Issa expresses his liking for Yoshida and thanks him for taking care of Sayu. They shake hands and part ways. At the terminal, Sayu confesses her gratitude for meeting Yoshida and her love for him. Yoshida, touched, compliments her but clarifies his feelings. Sayu asks if she has a chance in the future, but Yoshida encourages her to live her life fully. Sayu tearfully promises to meet him again, and they part ways. That evening, Yoshida finds a note, a scented shirt, and a recipe book from Sayu. Attempting to make miso soup, he fails miserably, shedding a tear as he misses her. Days pass, and one night, returning home from work, Yoshida sees a girl under the same lamppost where he first met Sayu. A tear falls from his eye. He wipes it away, thinking he's dreaming, but no. Actually, it is lovely Sayu, warmly greeting him.